everyone, welcome to the Careers in Technology webinar for London Tech Week. Today, the 10th of September, the Careers in Technology campaign actually launched in the New Scientist magazine, so you can grab your hands on a copy there, and also online at Business and Industry. I'm joined today with some of the contributors to the campaign, so we're going to have the chance to be able to speak to everyone so that everyone can run through the content that they kind of put forward and just shine a bit more of a light on what they do, and also kind of just bring a bit more information. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, you can reach out to them. I'll make sure that all their websites and their social media handles are available, so you can reach out to them directly or to myself. So I'd like to kind of start it off by just giving a bit more of an overview of the campaign. So the whole aim was really to raise awareness about the different opportunities in technology, to look at the different career pathways, to talk about, you know, if you're starting off your career, what options there are, from kind of degree apprenticeships to kind of additional skills and different courses that you can get involved in, and also how to kind of raise awareness for parents and teachers to get more young girls excited about careers in technology, as there is a bit of a gender split, but then also looking at the opportunities for returners, so those who have had a career break, and what opportunities there are for them to kind of step back into a role comfortably and have the confidence to kind of go forward in a career in tech. So we're joined today by a whole host of people, and I'd like to kind of start off with Jo Morphee. She's the co-founder of InnovateHer. So Jo, I'd really like you to kind of talk about what InnovateHer do, you know, obviously some of the content that you put forward for us, and just kind of give a bit of an introduction to yourself as well, please.
Sure, thanks for having me on the panel today. I run an organisation called InnovateHer, as Gabrielle said. We are all about getting girls ready for industry and industry ready for girls. So what that means in a nutshell is we've run educational programmes in schools for girls aged 13 to 16. We've been doing that for about 4 years. We've worked with about 1,000 girls to date and 50 schools. We're based in the Northwest, but since the pandemic, we've been able to take our offer online, which has been a fantastic opportunity for us, actually. And it means that we can now reach girls across the whole of the UK. So that's been really interesting for us. And we've seen a huge variety in the types of girls and that have come on our programme, and the backgrounds and identities of those girls since we've taken it remotely. We also run corporate programmes, educational programmes, to help companies become more diverse and inclusive. So we have a company membership network that directly supports our educational work in the schools. And we currently work with about 22 companies, I think, from the likes of Co-op to Sony to Very Group, probably some of the bigger brands that you would know. We're all about trying to create a change in the industry so that when the young women come through into these organisations, they're going to find environments that are inclusive and diverse and are welcoming, because the industry also has a bit of an issue with retention and that inclusive environment piece. But the piece that I wrote for the article was actually all about how do we recover post-COVID and create a new world or a new economy if we don't involve young people. Young people and the education sector have been one of the worst hit sectors during COVID-19, and particularly minority groups. Women, for example, 77% of women were in what we call frontline jobs and low-paid jobs, low-skilled jobs. And young people are now going to be kind of coming out of university or coming out of school, leaving college, into an economy which is in a recession, and how, you know, where are the opportunities for them? And I think one of the things that the pandemic has proven is that digital skills are going to be fundamental and paramount going forward in order for us to rebuild our economy. And our online programme, just to finish, was Tech for Good. So we were asking young women to solve problems relating to COVID-19 using technology as the enabler. And some of the solutions that they came up with were just incredible. And most of them chose to focus on solving problems for elderly people and those people that had to shield and be isolated for longer. So that filled me with hope for our future, because actually it proves that the next generation really do care about looking after their elders. And also some of the ideas that they came up with would rival any that a tech company might come up with in response to a client brief, to be honest with you.
Oh, brilliant.
That's me in a nutshell.
And if people are looking to kind of get involved, is it best for them to just kind of go onto your website to look at the different courses? How easy is it for them to kind of access this?
Yeah, thanks for that prompt.
It's fine.
We have a portal that we launched during the pandemic for our online programs. We are offering all of the programs for free to girls and non-binary students across the UK. So it's online.innovateher.co.uk for the educational programs, if you want to check those out. And we also are always looking for donations so that we can keep those courses free, because one of the aspects that we're looking at is that we work with young people who can't, who are disadvantaged or from communities that would normally be hard to reach. So keeping it free is hugely important for us, and also making sure that we attract a lot of diversity in our students. So that's people from BAME groups and people from different religious backgrounds and people with different sexualities across the whole spectrum, because we need to get everybody involved in technology.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the whole thing is about access to it as well and making it interesting for them. So thanks for that, Jo. That's really interesting. And that leads nicely onto Beckie Taylor, who I'd like to introduce from Tech Returners. If you want to kind of give us a bit of background, I know quite a bit about it, obviously, as I've worked with you on this, but just for people who haven't heard of Tech Returners and a bit about how it came about, please feel free to kind of share and obviously then delve into what you did for us with the Careers in Technology campaign.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for having us on the programme. It's been a great insight in terms of sharing our experience with you. Just give you a bit of an insight in terms of what we do. So we support people that have had established tech careers who have had a career break for a variety of reasons and looking to transition back into the technology industry. Tech Returners was set up born on my own experience. So my background is 18 years HR people talent, and before I set up Tech Returners, I was HRD for a leading SaaS-based tech business in Manchester. So 7 years ago, I fell pregnant with my first child, Ethan, and I really sort of experienced the whole transition out of such a high growth, fast-paced environment and transitioning back into it. I sat at the time on a leadership team of 13, being the minority of being the only woman around the table, and then also the minority of being the only parent around that table. So led me to really look at the challenges that people had around transitioning back into technology. So that led me to co-found Women in Tech community initiative, so Women in Tech North, which you can find us on meetup.com. And I'm proud to say over the 4 years that we've had that community, we are now the third largest Women in Tech community globally. And it was through the work that I was doing within the community that it was becoming more and more apparent around the lack of opportunities for people returning to tech after a career break. A lot of amazing projects such as Jo at InnovateHer have done some fantastic things about educating girls and understanding those sort of avenues into technology. But if you looked at the statistics, gender pay gap sitting at 18.6%, and also the statistic that 56% of women leave technology careers at mid-level point, it was starting to tell a story that where's that support of actually helping people come back into work. So coming up to 3 years ago, myself and my co-founder James, who's come from a technical background, decided to see whether there's an actual demand around supporting returners back into technology. So we did a couple of social media posts, and at the time we were both consultants, so we dedicated some of our time and provided free upskilling programs for people looking to return to tech. We were overwhelmed by responses. Our first cohort was 100% female, and then the second one was 90%. And through those pilot projects, I'm pleased to say that now they've all established careers in technology. And actually one of our first tech returners has now joined us as a tech coach. So gone the full circle and actually giving back through our programs. So after the pilot projects, we knew that we wanted to bring this model to a commercial model, but really staying true to what we believe in around accessibility. So nobody pays to upskill on one of our programs, and it's something I feel extremely passionate about around accessibility, and all of our courses are delivered flexibly, so either in the evenings or weekends. So people who have childcare requirements or caring responsibilities can still do that while they're upskilling to transition back into work. So we formed relationships with companies in Manchester through sponsorship. So we've worked with the likes of the BBC, Booking.com, Auto Trader, Infinity Works, Lloyds Bank, NCC Group, just to name a few. And to date, we've enabled 55 people back into technology careers, and 49 of them being women, which we're extremely proud of. Something else that we're proud of is that we've got 100% retention rate. So everybody who has been placed into an organisation has stayed with that organisation, progressed that career, something that we're very passionate about. And then beginning of this year, before the pandemic happened, we decided that we wanted to launch into London. And this was following a project that we did with the BBC towards the end of last year, when we realised there was a demand there for people returning into the London area. For the BBC programme alone, we had 23,000 women apply for their programme, and we had to close applications within 2 weeks. So anybody who says there's a lack of women in tech, there isn't, because the people are looking to return to tech. We just need to create those accessible routes for them to do so. So even though we had the pandemic and COVID struck, we still decided to plough on in terms of our London launch. And yesterday, as part of London Tech Week, we're pleased to say that our first cohort of 16 started on our London programme, all fully remote at the moment. We hope that we can get to meet them in person at one point. And we were overwhelmed by responses. So we've had over 100 applications, and our cohort demographic is that it's 70% women on the programme, and also 60% BAME. Again, something that we're really focusing quite highly on. And it's not just around obviously providing those upskilling opportunities in technically, we very much focus on personal development. So we focus very much on growth mindset, we focus around confidence, resilience, imposter syndrome, and help them successfully transition to companies and carry on their careers basically. And how we say we're changing people's lives. You know, even hearing the introductions from the 16 yesterday, these people have had between them over 17 years technical experience with companies such as IBM, Google, HSBC, just to name such a few. And they are being overlooked because they have career gaps on their CVs, but they're not career gaps. What they've done in between those career gaps, they've raised families, which are huge amounts of transferable skills, knowing that from being a mum of two. They've done voluntary projects. They've actually done family technical apps. So there's so much wealth of experience within returners. And our article was just trying to highlight the point that there's a huge untapped talent pool out there, that both there is opportunities for returners to come back in, and also for companies to understand there is talent out there for their talent needs.
Absolutely. And I think it's very much just instilling that confidence for people to go for it and apply for those jobs that they know they can do, but might feel that they don't necessarily tick all the boxes. So that's really great to hear. Congratulations on yesterday's launch of the new cohort. So I think that kind of moves us quite nicely into Sheree. I'd love to come to you next, just to kind of delve into a bit more about coding, because I think this is more where the kind of technical side of things come in. And please introduce it and kind of give us a bit of an overview of about women who code and kind of what you do, and also kind of where then this kind of skills gap may kind of come into, but also like the confidence of maybe kind of looking at doing some more courses or how people can get into coding. So please.
Yeah, of course. I'm Sheree, and I am the Global Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Director at Peakon, which is an employee success platform. And I'm also a global ambassador at Women Who Code. Women Who Code is the world's largest nonprofit globally dedicated to women in technology, where we have over 220,000 members and a presence in over 60 cities. Now, what we do is we support our 230,000 global members around the globe in their technology careers with free monthly meetups. So we have been going, which feels like forever and a day now, but have been going for 9 or 10 years now. Originally started our base in San Francisco, and where I came in was I launched and led our award-winning UK expansion, taking us from 0 to over 10,000 members, building up remote teams, really creating the role models in technology of tomorrow. Our role is to change the face of the industry and to provide free meetups. And that's really important to us, because if you don't do that, you're ultimately creating another element of exclusion. Now, what we do is we spend the time understanding what are the different areas that are being hired on in those different cities that we are in. What are the types of things that women need help with? So for example, if there's different human skills, CV writing, interview practices, all of those things that ultimately people assume you know, but you don't necessarily know until someone tells you or you've been through the process, to really help them nurture their digital confidence, to really help them get the jobs they want, stay in those jobs, and most importantly, get the money that they deserve, because you shouldn't be doing these jobs and being paid unfairly. Now, Women Who Code has changed the landscape. We've worked with almost every single tech company that exists, from the Facebooks to the Etsy's to smaller companies and startups. We work with a lot of VC organizations as well to help change the playing field when it comes to funding and startups. So we're really in that environment to make a difference. Now, it's important that when you have organizations like Women Who Code, that you have dedicated partnerships with companies that are really trying to make a difference in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And my piece in the article is really focusing on 3 top tips to create successful DE&I strategies. And ultimately that comes down to 1, listening to people. Now, maybe that sounds like common sense, but sometimes people talk more than they listen. We know that. And there's a big part here in making sure that people are listened to in your organization, that no assumptions are made. Then providing action after you've listened. There is no point in people going through the emotional exhaustion of telling you incredibly sometimes painful things and you're not doing anything about it. And then actually embedding accountability in through the organization. Now, what does that look like? Who is owning this? What is the responsibilities? How do you tie that to business goals? And again, understanding, embedding accountability through partnerships with organizations like Women Who Code. Now, again, COVID has hit all of we have a lot of our events now in all of our different cities are all remote now. So it's safe, you can get involved. If you go to womenwhocode.com, very simple, you can see the button Find a Network at the top. You'll simply see all of the networks that exist, all of the upcoming events. One of the things we also provide is training tracks. So for example, on different technologies that are being used. So instead of actually having to, pay for a course somewhere, you can do that for free with us and industry specialists. So we're really, I guess, creating a more equitable environment for people and leaving the world better than we found it.
Brilliant. That's great, Sheree. Thank you so much. And that kind of leads us quite nicely on to Dr. Guy Gross, who actually is kind of coming from a different angle. I know, and we've kind of touched on the different ways to get involved and how we can kind of really talk about the career side of things. But I think with Dr. Guy, you're kind of looking more around the impact of technology and in particular in healthcare. So you're from the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and you kind of did a piece for us kind of looking at the impact of tech within healthcare and digital innovation. So I'd love for you to explore that in a bit more depth for us and just kind of shine a bit of a light on some of the work that you've done, and obviously introduce yourself as well, please.
Sure. I'm Dr. Guy Gross. I'm a former health worker. I've done a lot of work across health and social care, covering everything from the development of tech, the integration of technology into the system, advising the Department of Health on various issues and quantifying the losses from in the social care sector from COVID, amongst other things. And it's a very, very complex web. So we're in a world moving forwards with technologies. I work with the Institution of Engineering on their health panel. We have 168,000 members globally in 150 countries. I sit over about, I think it's about 20% the group of us oversee and advise on. So there is a lot of people out there interested, and it's both the companies and the individuals who are interested in breaking into the space. So it covers a very broad set of opportunities. We cover everything from user design through to the development side, designing pathways and then working with the patients or service users to identify how we can fill some gaps there. And I think there's a real set of advantages for younger people, particularly where I think the people at my level have been grown up in a world which has combined the internet with real life without the internet, and when you've grown up in that environment, you have a very different perception on what's possible and what's not, and how things intuitively should work. So younger people coming into that sort of space right now can bring a huge amount of value. I think both from understanding how the impact of influence can work on social media through to the natural way of flowing through digital pathways. So there's a lot of opportunity. The digital dimension in healthcare is enormous. The movement away from conventional pathways where people spend on average about 10 hours a year with clinicians. We have no idea what's going on with the other 8,750 hours, or how many hours that is, when people aren't with clinicians. And I think the opportunity for digital is to start getting a real view of how people live their lives, what technologies fit within there that can feed into how we perceive what's going on with people, and also get into precision and personalized medicine, where we can really help people identify solutions that work specifically for them in their circumstances and based on their genetic and makeup. And those two areas are massive growth areas that currently are developed almost as point solutions, but we need much wider reaching solutions that really cover vast areas, rather than just these sort of solutions that might tackle, let's say, breathlessness at 1 minute, and then a heart disease in another minute, and then a brain disease in another area. We really need integrated solutions that cover all that goes on with people, and that's a real opportunity, I think, where younger people are capable of taking that view, and perhaps people a little further down the road are less able. So there's a lot of opportunity in the space, and there's a lot of problems that need solving that I think we need to get into.
Yeah, and that kind of obviously ties quite nicely into what InnovateHer discovered, obviously, when they did their kind of cohort of young people who wanted to help younger people. So it's quite nice that it ties again back into the health sector, and obviously what we can do with digital technology and digital health. So it's really interesting to see how it can be integrated back into society. So it was a great piece, so thank you for your contribution. And that leads us quite nicely finally on to Barclays, who we've got all three. We've got Gillian, Beckie and Ashleigh, who did a lovely kind of duplicate piece, which was looking at the 4 different pillars within the business, and they're all from different backgrounds. So Gillian, I'd like to kind of start with yourself, if you're able to kind of introduce yourself and obviously the piece that you did on behalf of Barclays, and just give us a real overview, because it was great to work so closely with you and get a real insight. So I'm quite well up to date with it all, but for everyone else who's listening and joining us, please paint a picture for us.
Yes, no problem. Thanks, Gabrielle. So my name is Gillian Lamela. So I've been with Barclays about just about 12 years now. So I've been in multiple roles. I've been in development role, UI design, delivering quite a lot of big tech transformation at the bank. I'm currently working in the CIB tech strategy transformation team as an engineering delivery lead, and where I focus on dev productivity, cloud migrations, and so on. So off the side of my desk, I'm also co-heading the Women in Tech Network with Jo Garnett, who heads up also BUK Run the Bank, as well as she also leads our coup D&I efforts at Barclays and enterprise technology. So unfortunately, she had a conflict today, so she couldn't make the session. She says hello. But yeah, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've done at Barclays with our global Women in Tech Network. So what we did last year is we've actually established the network across the globe. We started out in Americas, and then we've moved into India and UK. We're now actually in Europe now. So it's been pretty exciting. Our network as a whole is focusing heavily on STEM awareness, making sure that we upskill our, not just our female technologists at Barclays, but our male allies as well. And that's having like a different, whether you're in tech or you have interest in tech, it's really key for our network to mobilize and give that level of support. A few things that we've done is, take a look at ensuring that we, have the right mentorship, that we're creating role models within Barclays that will help, change the, the future generation and make it a little bit more diverse in terms of learning STEM. So we've launched programs, just to give you guys a view, like the Skillshares program, which is about a 6-month program. This launched last year. It teaches what you're able to do is you're able to select from various technologies like data science, of which Ashleigh's in. You'll hear from her in a little bit. You can learn about machine learning. You can learn about cloud migrations. You can learn a little bit about cybersecurity, different tracks. You can learn development, design thinking, things like that. And what we do is we match via volunteers, mentors who are expert in that area, and folks with various skill sets. So we're actually creating bespoke programs so you can learn tech over 6 months. Other things that we've done is like heavily focusing on that next generation. So taking a look at, our primary, secondary schools, we do quite a lot of work to teach them coding at an early age. For me, it's been, very instrumental learning programming, having learned it at 14. I'm definitely a very strong promoter, strong advocate of that. So is Joe, who's not on the call. So another mention for Joe. And we also focus around, kind of like that design thinking hackathon. So we partner with organizations like Teens in AI, where, we enable teams at different levels to learn coding, learn design thinking, learn those fundamentals. Learning in kind of a contained environment, and also team build. So we focus on our efforts on partnering with organizations like that as well. And Guy, to your point around like upskilling digital pathways, we're looking at building prototypes for that as well within our network. So we do quite a lot of work in women in tech. We also focus, externally as well. So we do provide like an external membership for some of our folks that are within our network. So we've been doing quite a lot. Our key thing is to ensure that we increase the STEM awareness. Our particular article for careers in tech, again, was focusing on, as Gabrielle said, the job families, the different areas of the bank and technology within Barclays. What we wanted to do is not only focus on female technologists, but female technologists of different backgrounds. So myself, I'm representing development and engineering. Joe Garnett is representing the production services. Collectively, we're both representing the network as a whole, and kind of our views around diversifying the workforce, as well as ensuring that we're embedding various experiences within our teams. Victoria Simpson, who also had to join us a cyber call, was representing the cyber area. Her background is very interesting. Again, not one of a technical background. I believe she had a fashion promotion kind of background. She came into Barclays about 2 years, and she is now responsible for managing a team in customer security. She's just newly been promoted, so kudos to her. Apologies that she could not make it. And we have Ashleigh, Randall, who's on the line. Ashleigh, I'll let you to introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your piece in the article where you focused around your data science area.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gillian. Thanks for having me here today as well. So yeah, as Gillian mentioned, I'm Ashleigh. I work at Barclays as a data scientist. So I joined Barclays about 3 years ago now, just over. When I first joined, it was very much kind of data science on the customer side, kind of what you think, a bit more like financial crime area. But recently I've moved into HR people analytics team. So I think for me, it's very much data science is kind of seen as something that is very tech heavy, particularly like the level of women within data science in tech is a very low proportion. So since kind of joining Barclays, it's been something for me that I've just tried to get involved in kind of all the women in tech initiatives, really trying to promote that area and encouraging more women and getting more diversity within the data science area particularly. I think kind of the piece that I wrote for this, it was very much around kind of getting rid of some of the myths around kind of data science tech and women in tech, because I think a lot of people think that you've got to kind of always been coding and always kind of knowing all this stuff about data and doing computer science to get into technology. So that's always something that I really try and push, that it's not. I think one of the key skills really is having kind of that creativity and be able to kind of like think outside of the box. So that was more kind of how I was focusing on the piece that I wrote, but particularly from kind of like the Barclays perspective, is that particularly in like the area that I work in now within HR, it's not always seen that you do get kind of tech and data science roles within there, but it is massively growing, and to be able to try and kind of get more women in that area is definitely something that Barclays as a whole, but particularly within my team, there is a lot of initiatives that go off that you can get involved in. So just kind of putting that out there, that a lot of people can get involved in these kind of initiatives, is really important as well.
Great. Yeah. And then I think just to add a bit about that, so just on Joe's piece, I did want to add, since she's not here, the other piece that she had her focus on was around empowering Barclays through diversity, right? So I think here she also works with students as well, encouraging STEM, ages 9 to 17. So she's a STEM ambassador for UK as well. So I did want to mention that as, and for us in the network, like during COVID, like everybody else, we had that challenge of working, a lot of our events, for example, had turned virtual for us, whereas we used to have like face-to-face, we were able to collaborate. I think for us, like from a tech perspective, we tried to drive innovation. Like we did our first virtual conference back in June. And for us, it's been a really, it's been a good space in terms of learning. For us, I think, if anything, the pandemic in the technology space or women in tech space has actually promoted even more collaboration than it had previously. We're working more across the globe to collaborate. And I think events before we would have done within our, local areas, we're doing that a lot more collaboratively now. So that's, I think that's the benefit, and that just demonstrates that technology is the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so interesting. And Ashleigh, I really loved your point about creativity, because I think there's a lot of graduates, especially this year, who are nervous about where the next step is, where am I going with my career? And obviously they've got all this energy that they want to kind of bring to the table, but they might shy away from roles that they think might not necessarily fit them. So I think it's so important for people to remember, you don't necessarily have to have all the skills on the job spec, but as long as you've kind of got a willingness to learn and obviously creativity and kind of the drive to be successful, then you can kind of certainly make a career in technology something that is well within their reach. So I think that is a great way to kind of finish it. So thank you all for being a part of it. And as mentioned, it's out in the New Scientist on the 10th of September and online. And I'll make sure that I kind of link through to everyone's websites and some of the great kind of websites with more information that you've all mentioned. So thank you so much for all your time here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.